911, added to the emergency.
Yes. My son just called me, and he told me God,
911.
He killed his baby, and he killed his wife. He killed her father, and I can't even believe this is happening.
Earlier.
I wish that we were speaking under different circumstances. We called this briefing this afternoon to update you on the status of the infant death investigation that we have been conducting today on Earlston Court. I also want to create an opportunity to provide some links between the crime that occurred here in Knightdale and also the crimes that you no doubt have been hearing about in Connecticut and New York today as well. By now, you should have received a copy of the press release. I'm not going to read that verbatim, but I will tell you that earlier today, around 9 o'clock, our officers received a welfare check request at the address of 106 Earlston Court here in Knightdale. Our officers responded to that location, made entry into the residence, and there they discovered the body of a 7-month-old male infant. The infant's name is Bennett Pladl. It's also important for you to know that there is a connection between the events here in Knightdale today and the crimes that are being investigated by the New Milford, Connecticut Police Department and the New York State Police Department. Those authorities have already issued press releases or are in the process of conducting press briefings themselves to make the folks in those jurisdictions aware of the connection to the events here in Knightdale. The New Milford, Connecticut Police Department is investigating a double homicide, while the New York State Police Department is investigating what is an apparent suicide in their jurisdiction. One of the things that I do want to confirm, there's been some speculation about this, but I will confirm that today's events do involve Stephen Pladl, 45-year-old male, and Katie Pladl, a 20-year-old female. You may recall that those individuals were the subject of an arrest here in Knightdale back in January 2018 for some warrants that were issued by the Henrico County Sheriff's Office out of Virginia. Once those warrants were issued and served by our agency, the extradition process began. It went back to Virginia for their court jurisdiction. It is our understanding that the case was awaiting trial there. During that period of time, the child, Bennett Pladl, was in the custody of Stephen's mother. It is Stephen's mother who called us this morning to make the request for the welfare check at that location. Again, as our officers arrived on scene, we found the infant inside the home. There was no one else inside the residence when our officers made entry. Over the course of the day, we began receiving contact information for the authorities in Connecticut and New York. Our detectives and investigators began working collectively with the authorities in those jurisdictions to kind of piece together how these events were connected. There was a lot of cooperation, a lot of sharing of information, and I think we have a pretty good handle on exactly how things transpired, not only here in Knightdale, but also in those municipalities as well. Obviously, we're very saddened by today's events. Events like this are not common in our community. Unfortunately, they are not uncommon in society. We are heartbroken, saddened over the death of this child, and like you, we're trying to make sense of all the factors that led up to this senseless taking of life. It's important for the families of those who are involved to know that they are in our thoughts. We offer our prayers. We hope that they're able to find some comfort and peace in this situation as time passes. I would be remiss if I did not thank our local law enforcement partners, the Wake County Sheriff's Office and the Sea County Bureau of Identification, for their assistance today, and also for the assistance of the authorities in Connecticut and New York as well. I will also extend my appreciation to each of you for your patience today as we have worked to investigate this unfortunate tragedy. I know that in your industry, you crave information. Timely information is important, but I do appreciate your patience and your understanding as we made this our priority. I also want to remind those that may hear this message today that no matter what your circumstances are, no matter how overwhelming a particular situation may feel for you, there is help available. There are resources out there that you can take a hold of and find a way to overcome whatever trial that may be. Find help. Call somebody. Talk to someone. If you don't know who to call us and we'll put you in touch with someone. But there is nothing that you're going through that cannot be resolved if you have the right help and if you have the right resources. As Captain Wickett mentioned a little earlier, I will be taking a few questions. I will go ahead and preface the answers to my questions with this. These are very active and ongoing investigations, not just here in Knightdale, but also in Connecticut and New York. There are things related to those investigations that I do not have the authority, nor am I at liberty to discuss or share with you. Even if I had the information, please understand that out of respect for their investigations and for the manner in which they would want to share information with their local stakeholders, I would probably keep that information close to the chest. But with that said, we'll take a few minutes and answer any questions that you might have concerning what's going on. I think I saw your hand up over here. Yes, sir.
So it sounds like Stephen Pladl's body and Katie Pladl's body was each found, whether it's in other jurisdictions. Can you say who was found where? Was Stephen found in New York? Was Katie found in Connecticut? Can you specify that?
Yes, Katie Pladl was the subject of the double homicide investigation in New Milford, Connecticut. Stephen Pladl was the apparent victim of the suicide that's being investigated by the New York State Police Department.
Chief, can you say,
I believe you were next. Yes, sir.
to your knowledge, do you know if Stephen was living there at the home as well, or just his mother?
Stephen was living at the residence on Earlston Court. His mother is a resident of the town of Cary.
Can you give us any indication as to when the child died, time of death?
I cannot speak exactly to a time of death. What I can tell you is that Stephen picked up the child from the mother late yesterday evening. There was some conversation that we had with the mother to help us establish a timeline, but those particulars are part of the ongoing investigation, so I wouldn't be able to give you an exact time, and in order not to release more information than we should at this point, I'll refrain from speculating any further.
So to reiterate, he was in the community as recently as yesterday.
That is
Child
correct.
was alive.
That is correct. Yes.
Can you share the second victim from that Connecticut shooting was this morning?
Yes, the second victim, bear with me just one moment. 56-year-old Anthony Busco. 56-year-old Anthony Busco. Anthony is the adopted father of Katie Pladl.
Can you give us a timeline of when you guys began to figure out that all these incidents were somehow linked?
I couldn't give you an exact timeline. As I said, we received a 911 call for the welfare check this morning at about 9 o'clock, and shortly thereafter, we began to receive information from the authorities in New York and Connecticut about the crimes that they were investigating. The case earlier today, and the investigation was very dynamic, very fluid. Our detectives have done a really good job of tracking down times and making notes of when those correspondences were happening. They would be in a much better position to speak to that than I. And so, again, I don't have specific times to give you. What I can say is throughout the course of the morning and over the course of the early afternoon, it was a constant exchange of information between our organization, the authorities in Connecticut and New York to try to put this all together.
So presumably, the child died and Mr. Pladl then drove north to Connecticut.
It is our understanding, yes, that Mr. Pladl drove to that area for the specific purpose of making some confrontations. Again, there are some additional details related to the question that you just asked, and I want to keep very guarded at this time because they are part of the ongoing investigation. Yes, sir.
The person called for the welfare check, what was it that concerned them enough that they felt they needed to make a phone call?
They received a phone call. The person that made the phone call, I'm sorry, is the decedent's mother. And there was an exchange over that phone call that concerned her enough to alert authorities. Again, there were some very specific details that she provided to us. Those things are a part of the ongoing investigation, but there was enough of information provided to her in speaking with her son that she was concerned to call us and let us know what was going on.
Where was the baby found in the house?
The exact location where the child was found is not something that I am going to be releasing at this time. I'm not going to be talking about the manner and cause of death either. Again, and I hope you can appreciate that those would be facts that are directly related to the ongoing nature of the investigation. But the child was found inside the home. The child was there alone. There was no one else in the home with the child.
How emotionally difficult is it for you when you are dealing with a victim who's only 7 months old?
Sure. So anytime there's a loss of life, it's a tragic situation. The individuals that get into public service do so because they have a genuine care and concern for other people. So it is never a pleasant thing to be dealing with the death of someone, particularly when that death is untimely, when that death is at the hands of someone else. I think it's certainly reasonable to say that death investigations involving small children and how those cases affect individuals is probably elevated a little bit, but our officers are extraordinarily professional men and women. We receive training in how to deal with those sorts of situations, and we also provide a number of resources to our folks in the aftermath of situations like this to make sure that they are still focused on the job that's in front of them and to make sure that they have the resources that they need to effectively cope with something like this. One more question.
Do you know where Katie's adopted mother was when all this was happening? Was she with the father and Katie at the time?
No, sir, I couldn't speak to that. That would be information that is likely in the possession of the authorities in Connecticut or New York, and so I could not speak to that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. You should have contact information on the press release. If we choose to release additional information concerning our portion of this investigation, we will do so, again, through press release, through social media plugs, and again, we welcome your call to the station if you have any other concerns. Thank you.
They had together
they were father and daughter.
Are all dead. Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Bowen.
And I'm Angela Taylor. This has been the big story all day, and tonight we're learning more about
He's
what
the
happened
daddy, she's the
beforehand.
mama.
We start in Wingdale, New York, where Se7en Pladl was found dead this morning. Around that same time, investigators in New Milford, Connecticut, found his wife and biological daughter Katie dead, along with her adoptive father.
Later in the morning, a call from Se7en Pladl's mother leads investigators to a home in Nightdale, where the couple's 7-month-old son was found dead. CBS 17's Colleen Quigley was the first local reporter to break this investigation spanning 3 states. She's live at a home in Nightdale, where this all started to unfold today. Colleen.
Well, Russ and Angela, behind me is the home that Se7en and Katie Pladl biologically father and daughter were living in together as husband and wife with their young son. That is up until that arrest in January on those incest charges. Now, I actually had a chance to speak with Se7en Pladl's attorney earlier today. He tells me once the couple was bonded out, no one foresaw the tragedy that all started in this house.
911, address of the emergency.
Yes. My son just called me, and he told me oh my God.
It was around 9 Thursday morning when police say Se7en Pladl's mother called 911.
He killed his baby, and he's in the house.
The woman cries as she tells the dispatcher her son's wife, 20-year-old Katie Pladl, broke up with him the day before. She goes on to say Se7en was going to bring their 7-month-old son to New York, where Katie was staying with her adoptive family.
He killed his wife, he killed her father, and I can't even believe this is happening.
Earlier Thursday morning in New Milford, Connecticut, police say they found Katie and her adoptive father, Anthony Fusco, dead in a pickup truck. A short time later in New York, police found Se7en dead in his car. Pladl's lawyer says Katie and Anthony were shot and killed, and then Se7en took his own life.
I did not remotely believe that he could harm himself or anybody around him. And when something like this happens, it's a shock.
It's disappointing.
Katie and Stephen, who were father and daughter, were both facing charges of incest in Virginia after she gave birth to their child. Katie, who'd been adopted, reconnected with her biological parents, even moving in with the couple and their 2 children in Virginia.
We are heartbroken, saddened over the death of this child. And like you, we're trying to make sense of all the factors that led up to this senseless taking of life.
Now, the Nightdale chief of police said he could not yet comment on how the couple's 7-month-old son Bennett was killed. That is because this multi-state investigation is still ongoing. Reporting live in Nightdale, Colin Quigley, CBS 17 News.